you see it?
Yeah.
All right, so pretty much here's the thing. So you read 20 float files from a file, or float numbers from a file, then you put them all in one vector and then displays the three smallest. So I always include, those, and then they'll define the length as 32. So you first open the file. We've gone over that. And I'll go back to these as I go through the thing. And then, so this is to check if the file is opening correctly. And if it's not, there it pops up and it ends it. Okay, so then for the actual code. So for just the number of things, it starts at 0 when it's less than 20, and then it increases each time. So you scan a float from whatever, so this would start at string 0, and then it gives you that string back. So that prints the string. It prints it as an array, which is what you want. That's for that part. And this makes it so that it ends the \n. It ends it. And so for the rest of it, if so you make a for loop, same situation, except so if the string length is less than the minimum, which it's always going to be at the start because you still want to set the minimum really high. So if it's less than the minimum, then you set them all equal. So the minimum 3 equals minimum 2, minimum 2 equals minimum 1, and minimum equals now the string length. So example, if this was 4, so these two everything would be equal, except it's now minimum is now 4. And so if that's not true, if it's less than the second minimum, which it will, then it does that same thing again. And so I made it this is like my old code that didn't work, so I just commented it out. So then it does it again, it repeats it. So now for this value, whatever string of the second value is, if it's less than the minimum, it runs through it again. But this time, if it's not less than the minimum, but it is less than the second minimum, it now replaces the value as a second minimum, and it makes the third minimum the old second minimum. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then, so if the next value is none of these, it doesn't do anything. But if it's less than the third minimum, it then replaces that, it becomes a new third minimum. But say the fifth value or something is now the smallest number, it replaces these. So then the third minimum, and the second minimum becomes a new third minimum. The second minimum is now like the old minimum, and then it sets that new value as the new minimum. So it just checks all 20 values to see whichever ones, and then you print the smallest is the minimum, second smallest is second minimum, third smallest is the third minimum. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Logan?
Yeah, it's kind of like the other program we did.
Yeah, it's very similar to number 1, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know.